Yeah, I'm excited. I am excited, Heavenly Father, in the name of Yeshua, the soon coming King. I am just grateful, Father. I'm grateful for what you're doing. Grateful for your word, your promises, the story of redemption, Father. Thank you for your patience with our people, and thank you for the grace and patience that you have for those in this world, Lord, who have yet to come to the full knowledge of truth. Or any knowledge of truth. Father, anyone can be saved. And we ask that you continue to be patient while also hastening your word so that those in the earth can see that these are the times that you wrote about through the prophets, and that this is the time to prepare for the coming of the King. And so I ask whatever you will to do on this meeting, Father, that it be done in your name. In the name of your Son, may he be glorified, may you be glorified in me and through all who will join us in Jesus' name. Amen. So, exciting things. This is our monthly Rep2025.org meeting. We do these meetings the third Sunday of every month. And what we look to do is to discuss the proposals to the nations, the calls to repent, everything being based off of our proposals at rep2025.org. Now, for those of you who have visited rep2025.org, you may have seen that originally the proposal to the US was about maybe 440 or 450 billion. Because originally we were asking for $1 million per household. That has since gone up to $1 million per individual. And that's per qualified individual who is a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade to repatriate to Liberia. And we will most likely be updating all of the proposals to the European nations and to the religious organizations, well, mainly the European nations, because they're the ones that are paying the financial reparations for us to repatriate, because the mission is for them to get the captives out of their lands. And the captives are the captives are the descendants of the slave trade. For those of us or those descendants who desire to stay in those lands, you're going to have to be marked by those lands. According to Moses, what God said through Moses, that if a stolen, or if anyone wanted to stay with their master because they had to release them the seventh year, if anyone wanted to stay with their master past the time served, they would have to be marked by that master. At the time, it was a mark in their ear. But for now, what we are doing is letting these nations realize that they are under judgment, because the period of time that if any slave, if any person was stolen from a land and found in the possession of anyone, the person who it was, the person was to be killed. So when we see that there's a judgment happening, according to Genesis 15:13, there's a judgment on the lands for all lands that have captives in them, descendants of stolen people. You cannot keep those descendants in your land. And so these proposals that we are making are really nominal in terms of cost versus benefit. Value versus cost is incredible. The amount of value that these nations get by sending everyone out with $1 million, and the partnering nations, the Liberian nation, as well as the Sierra Leone nation, because these are nations designated for freed descendants. So specifically, the reason, and some of us who have had DNA tests, if you've had your Y chromosome DNA test, you might find out that you are either from ancient Egyptian, you're ancient Egyptian. If your DNA is E1B1A, you are Israelite. If you are R1B, this is your Y haplogroup, which would be your father's line. You can have a brother or male person from your father's line do that test. Should be anywhere from $99 to $150 at the most. And you're on our way to those lands. We need a place for the diaspora. We need a place where those who are desiring to help these nations be released from their judgment, you have to leave. So, or you have to pledge to stay. And that's going to be, this is a spiritual, prophetic happening. So you're going to see judgment from heaven, signs, wonders, fury poured out from heaven on these lands. You're going to see the rains held back. You're going to see their crops fail. You're going to see death and pestilence and famine until they let get the captives out their land, or get the ones who want to stay to pledge to stay. And so as we present these proposals, all we want to do is make it clear that we have land designated. Sierra Leone and Liberia is the size of 5 New Jerseys. So, in fact, I'm sorry, Liberia is the size of 5 New Jerseys. Now, I live in New Jersey, and the population of New Jersey is 8 million. And we still have plenty of space, plenty of agricultural land, farmland, plenty of rural areas. It's not all cities. It's not highly congested cities. So when you consider that the current population of Liberia is, I believe, it's 5.4 million. So currently the population is let's call it 5.5 million. And that would be, if it was the size of 1 New Jersey, it would still have room for roughly 3 million people. And if so, we look and say, well, it's the size of 5 New Jerseys. That means that it could easily house 20 million people without being congested. Sierra Leone is the same thing. Sierra Leone is the size of about 3 New Jerseys, and Sierra Leone population is 8 million. So that's more, they could probably stand another 15 million people easily. So our plan, which what we believe is according to prophecy, is to have the descendants of the slave trades that are in lands of captivity go to these lands and build these nations with subsidies from the U.S. and from the former colonizers and imperialist governments, supporting these nations with subsidies for infrastructure and for long-term investment in agriculture and things that may take time before we see an ROI, because we're going to have plenty of businesses that sprout up, plenty of investment, plenty of what is known as the private sector. These are businesses. These are you guys coming and starting enterprises. We're going to have plenty of that, but we don't want any of us having to go into things that should be covered in the public sector. The public sector should cover things that the private sector doesn't normally invest in. For example, infrastructure, roads, bridges, certain, depending on, healthcare, but even that can be private as long as it is, competition is there to where, prices are going to be cut down. And that might be a public-private partnership. But what we look for the subsidies for are specifically things that the public sector is not going to invest in upfront, and specifically things that once these things are in place, It's not normal for a person to come in and start a business in agriculture of certain crops that may be necessary for food independence. Or, we don't want to be importing food because if someone can feed you, then they can starve you. So we want to be food independent as quickly as possible. And in order for that to happen, we have to make a serious investment into agriculture and the things that are going to make sure that, if nothing else, everyone in the nation can eat. And in the event of worldwide famine, or in the event of, someone who's importing more than half or even more than 25% of the food we eat, if something happens to them, we are now jammed up. And so we don't want that. We need to be able to store food, to grow our own food, to feed our own people. And I want to be clear that this is going to be a partnership with the natives that have gone before us, come before us, with the tribes that even were forcefully sold their land or made contracts for their land under duress. You may have had stories passed down orally that, Liberia or Sierra Leone or both had deals made that weren't in their best interest. And therefore, they don't like that people are coming onto their land or that their land is public. But what we need to realize is what is inked is inked. And the key is for us to now grow a bigger and better pie than you could ever grow by yourself. And that's beautiful roads, that's beautiful infrastructure, water, clean water, making sure everybody has clean water, and sewage and waste disposal. These are the things that we are looking for $50 billion over 7-year investment into infrastructure. Schools, we are going to build 5,000 K through 12 schools, and these schools are there really may not be a need for schooling beyond 12th grade, except in highly specialized fields, medical, potentially law. We're talking highly specialized fields where advanced learning is necessary, but we can do enough with incredible K through 12 schools that really teach. Here's the key: we want to be clear on teaching the skills that pay the bills, the skills that lead to wealth of a person, of a nation. What are the trades? What are the in-demand skill sets where, when you come out of high school, or even in high school potentially, you already have learned skills that are highly in demand in your region, in your nation. And I think, when we consider how many jobs are going to be necessary just to take care of the infrastructure, where it's going to be incredible. So that's just for the infrastructure partnership alone is going to create an incredible amount of jobs. The school, building 5,000 K through 12 schools in Liberia as well as Sierra Leone. This is going to be a small team of curriculum writers. We don't need 200 curriculum writers. I don't believe so. I think, creating a small group of, volunteer. Most of them should be either volunteer or, part-time curriculum writers. They should be able to do this while still either working their job as a professor or as an educator now, or someone in school. Some of the curriculum we want is going to be from business owners and people who, we want people who are in business, who've been successful in business, writing and helping contribute to the business curriculum. No longer are we going to have business curriculum written by people who, no offense, have never owned a business or who have never succeeded in a big way in business. And So these are the things that are going to allow us to be incredibly successful, employ a lot of people, and schooling is going to help us. Putting those 10,000 schools up in these nations, it's going to allow us to one all speak one common language, and also learn the two most common languages to do well in this world, to communicate with others, which are Mandarin and Spanish. We're not going to be learning Italian. We're not going to be learning, you know, potentially may not be learning French. We'll see. We're going to have to really, everything is about ROI, return on investment, return on time. And here in America, we've unfortunately fallen victim to studying things that in time, but this is time, this is energy, this is resources that will never lead to a dime of return. And that's just problematic. We're not going to allow that to happen anymore. We're going to carefully research the most in-demand things, most in-demand fields and professions, and on the world stage, how do we want our youth coming out of these schools? We want our youth coming out of these schools, and we want our I'm not going to call elders. I mean, people like me. I'm 41. If I am wanting to go and learn, we're going to have adult schools. It's going to be very common for adults to not be paying millions of dollars per year in college to go and learn. It's going to be set up where we can have adult schools, vocational schools that is going to be either free or very affordable based on how we're going to do this. And initially, it may be free, but it'll say again, these are things that we have looked at how the West has done certain things and the money they spend and the return that we get and what we get as the people, and we have planned the exact opposite of that. So that's the schooling. Then we consider we spoke about infrastructure, we spoke about schools, military and defense budgets. So 1 billion per year so that we can build a sovereign, strong army, military. We want the best people from all of the nations that we are coming from to come and build the most sophisticated military the world has ever seen. Because we're in a world now where we don't need to invest billions and billions of dollars into, aircraft carriers necessarily, and destroyers and battleships. Yes, these things may still play a role, but we also are in a world of cyber technology, cyber defense, and we need the smartest people who understand those things. Israel built an Iron Dome, which has nothing to do with firing missiles necessarily. It's a technology. So when we consider what could be done with drones and what can be done really to be able to defend yourself from threats, internal and external, without without spending 5% or more of your GDP on defense. So we're looking to for the $1 billion per year in military aid so that we can build a very strong military. And we're going to have the best people, the best generals, the best sergeants, the best Marines, the best Navy, best Army, the best boots on the ground. It's going to be phenomenal. And because we get to, right now, these nations are sending people out. Right now, these nations they don't have room for certain people. They're laying people off. These are extremely talented people. So the pool for us to choose from is going to be phenomenal. We're going to have just, so many qualified applicants. And So the key is working with, getting our systems right for, what is the vision for the military, and then just bringing in the best people and holding them accountable to doing what they're gifted to do. So, we're not going to have the opportunity, we're not going to give the opportunity for a person who's not good at their job to keep that job, because it's going to be so many positions available, or rather, although it's so many positions, it may sound like, but we're going to have so many applicants, so many qualified candidates, we can't afford to keep someone or the wrong person in the right position for long. So it's going to be a very, very high degree of accountability, and that will allow us to bring on the best people possible. We just got our first contact within the Liberian embassy, or rather in the UN here in New York, and we put our proposal to President Trump in their hands, and we believe the person that we put it in is two degrees removed from the president. Maybe 2 degrees removed from the ambassador. And so our goal is to really get these proposals. When you go to rep2025.org, I'm specifically speaking from the US perspective, but I do want you guys to understand that all of you in Jamaica, the Bahamas, Brazil, Guyana, the Netherlands, the Caribbean islands, and anywhere that is was under British or Dutch or Spanish rule, any of those, colonies, we are looking to duplicate the same thing in Sierra Leone. So I can speak about one general proposal to President Trump, and we can assume those things carry over. Now, what you'll see is the price has gone up. Originally, we were speaking about 800. We were originally speaking about $1 million per household. We are now looking at $1 million. It's $1 million per individual, because this is a very, very inexpensive deal compared to the benefits. When we look at the things that the country has spent money on concerning wars that they've gotten little to no return on, we are going to build a partnership with the West that they've never seen before, going into these two countries and turning them into two of the most prosperous countries in the world. We're going to have billions of dollars in investment capital flow into those countries. The monetary systems are going to be so sophisticated, the world is going to want to duplicate what we're doing. And again, we get to trade in the future, because what we're going to do is, as we go over there and we take our DNA test to find out what tribes we're from, many of you are going to want to start to open up the conversations with our neighboring countries. So you may be from Ghana, and as we build the diaspora HQ in Liberia and Sierra Leone, and those nations become prosperous, you may want to start to be the bridge to Ghana, or to a part of Ghana where your people are, a part of Nigeria, a part of Cameroon, a part of the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, depending on, because the diaspora coming from the slave trade, being descendants of the slave trade, we do have a mixed a DNA. So we are going to find that a lot of times we are from not just one nation, but we're from Nigeria as well as Cameroon, so as well as ancient Egypt. So these are the things that are going to lead to us taking what we do in Liberia and Sierra Leone and spilling it out, taking those models and now connecting with the transatlantic descendants, as well as the people who never was stolen, our family there who never was stolen. So when you look up in 5 to 7 years, we're not just going to be doing business in Liberia and Sierra Leone. We're going to be doing business throughout the continent of Africa, throughout the Caribbean, and parts of South America where our descendants still are. I mean, where the transatlantic descendants still are. And so America would want, and Europe would want to be in our good graces. They would want to be partners at that time. They don't want to be enemies of ours. They don't want us aligned with someone else making these deals. They don't want someone else having first right of refusal to these deals, or to this trade. So it's a small price to pay when we look at $2 trillion over 7 years. It's an investment. And not to mention the social benefits that they get by actually righting the historic wrongs of their nation. The social benefits are going to be incredible. You know, we get to eliminate the race conversation forever. We get to finally put the, systemic racism conversations to bed, because we all want to move forward. But the fact is, no one has done anything real, in anything substantial enough for us to move forward. And I think that's what we're considering here is, if we're going to move forward, then we need to actually make a real decision to, for reparative justice. There are liabilities here. There are, losses. There are damages due. So if we were litigating the matter in the international court, it would not be hard to prove that there are damages due, and that the parties liable still have not paid those damages. And at some point, the damages become too large to pay. So this is essentially a settlement. And we think it's a great settlement. It's an offer that we're willing to take, because it allows us to move forward. It allows us to get back to the lands that our ancestors were stolen from, build there, as we said, build with our neighboring nations and transatlantic nations. And, part of what is, God allowed the taking of specific nations, and we don't intend to take, we don't intend to have nations given back that were taken. That's not our thing. So when you look at like a Jamaica, when you look at the Bahamas, when you look at, Barbados, when you look at these nations where our people were taken and they have gotten the independence, Haiti, we don't intend to give these nations back, because for the most part, there was no inhabitants there that are making the case. Now, what America wants to do with the Native Americans, that's just not our business. But in the nations that our people have taken as independent and sovereign nations, we don't believe, we believe that that at this point, until God says otherwise, that was his will. And therefore, we intend to, do business throughout the transatlantic sovereign alliances, which are the nations where the transatlantic descendants are. And as we said, outside of America and a few others, many of our brothers and sisters have gotten independence as nations. They are sovereign. And when we start to do trade throughout the transatlantic alliance, it's going to be like nothing the world has ever seen. So to pay $2 trillion over 7 years, to have the opportunity to participate in that type of growth and worldwide transformation is a small price to pay, on top of the social benefits. And when it comes to President Trump, President Trump is the one that we believe will spearhead this, because he has the ability to solidify himself as the most important president in history there, and it will be not even close. He'll be the most important president to Black Americans, and potentially to all Americans, because he will be that peace deal will bring a different level of peace. There's, again, there's no one who's going to not leave and still accuse the nations of systemic racism, because staying in those nations as a captive you are pledging allegiance to them, and you're pledging allegiance in a new day. Because once we leave and go into the lands that God is taking us to and build these lands, you are now saying, I don't want to go there. I'm going to stay here. So at that point, you've lost all your right to complain. You can continue to do it, but it's going to receive very little support, because most people are going to look at you and say, well, why didn't you go over there and just build with your people? Those are, and again, not all Black people are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. So it's very important that we distinguish the descendants of the stolen from people who migrated or people who came voluntarily. Very, very different, and it should be treated as such. We are not calling those who migrated or whose parents migrated voluntarily to leave. That's not the people. In fact, that's most of the time where the conflict comes in, is the Black people who feel they were never slaves, or their parents or grandparents were never oppressed, or their descendants were never slaves. And so they don't intend to, we have a different fight. We have different ideals, different things that are important to us. And so it makes no sense for us to group everyone into one group when clearly there are differences. So those people can stay if they choose to. If they'd like to come, and then that's going to be between the Liberian government, Sierra Leone government, and potentially the Diaspora HQ. Diaspora HQ is the oversight committee that we're going to form, that'll be comprised of representatives from the diaspora, representatives of the native lands of Sierra Leone and Liberia, as well as representatives from those respective governments, and possibly even third-party independent representatives from the nations that are making the deal, that are paying. So, but you won't get the reparations because, again, you did not have these things done to your ancestors, and you are not captive in a land that you didn't choose to be in. So, yes, you guys can go at to rep2025.org. We will look to follow up on our proposal that is in the hands of the gentleman. I'm just not going to name names at this point, but at some point I will be able to name names, because I would like to have more people understand exactly who we're dealing with. But because some of these relationships are still new and fresh, I will just say that we have someone who is representing Liberia in the UN, who has the proposal, who says he will put it in the right person's hands to get it to the ambassador to the United States from Liberia. So Liberia has an ambassador that they send that represents Liberia's interests here in the United States. And that ambassador is a person who can, in fact, the gentleman's name is, I believe, second. So Conti, I apologize. So yes, Dr. Conti is the ambassador to the United States from Liberia, and he is the gentleman that we are eventually looking to read the proposal to the United States, get the proposal into President Boakai's hands so that he can read it, so he can just see the massive benefits that are coming to his nation. And we will also dig deeper into, I mean, that's the only mission right now. I believe the only mission, legislation-wise, as far as these proposals, is getting them into the hands of people who are close to either the ambassadors from Sierra Leone, from Liberia, or who have contacts in those countries, who can get the proposals in the hands of the people who matter. Yes, we're very excited. I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that we have not covered. Nothing comes to mind. So what we'll do is we'll plan for your next update. If you can join us, you can go to rep2025.org. You can add the next meeting to your calendar. It's the third Sunday of every month at 2:30 Eastern Time. That's 7:30 GMT. So, and we'll continue to update progress. We will be calling for everyone to who is pretty much a believer in what's about to happen, to pray with us. We will be calling we will be having regular days of prayer, because we believe again that God is doing this, and as we pray according to 2 Chronicles and turn from our wicked ways and ask God to deliver us from our lands of captivity where our ancestors were scattered, that he will hear us and he will hasten these things. We believe that plagues and fury from heaven is coming to these lands, and the only way they're going to stop it is to get the captives out. So we want to help them in getting the captives out, but we need to do this the right way. We're not just going to send a bunch of our people who've already had 400 years of really being burdened with you know, a lot of these nations. We're not going to just send we're not going to okay our people going into nations without resources, without infrastructure, and really building with nothing. We've done that here. We continue to do it with no resources, with very little support, very little, you know, we look at what's happening in Haiti, and I won't get deep because I'm going to wrap up in 60 seconds. But when you look at what a nation who has been isolated on the world stage looks like, it is extremely hard to build when the world has isolated you from participating in a lot of things, and they've allowed people to come in and pillage your resources, your natural resources, ship them out as raw materials, sell you back finished goods, ship out hundreds of thousands of jobs in what would have been a great supply chain, but they're taking the raw materials. We've seen what that's like, and we're not going to do that again. So I appreciate everyone. This is your update for this month. We will be back third Sunday of next month. Mark your calendars. You can go to rep2025.org to read each of the proposals, and we look forward to continually updating you on progress. I am Brother Deshaun. God bless you in the name of Yeshua.